welcome to Books Unbound, the podcast where we unbind books to get to their hearts with your hosts, us. It's Ariel and
Raeleen.
Hello. Hello.
With purple hair that kind of just looks pink.
It looks a little pink, but in photos I saw it looks purple.
I have washed it twice since those photos were taken, so the color does just look a bit more pink now. Unfortunately, it was a very pink toned purple, but I was also putting it on red hair. Like, my hair was still red underneath.
Okay.
So I'm in the transition phase right now of trying to turn it into a more bluey purple. So
okay.
I'm loving it, though. I'm loving
this.
This
is an exciting time.
Yeah.
You have also a kind of a matching pinkish lip. And
it's been a while since I've been able to wear this lipstick because it clashed with my orange hair. So.
Well, I had noticed that you were doing like lips that matched the hair, and I really respect the hell out of that.
My problem was I had no orange lipstick anymore. I used to, but
yeah,
no longer.
But it still was matching. You weren't using like pinks and
stuff. It just didn't work. Let me tell you, it looked bad. I've tried.
Well, I knew obviously that you had dyed your hair and that you were coming here with the new hair, and I haven't gotten to my situation yet, but I did want to show everyone a purchase that I made, and it is this brown hair dye.
Oh, I wish I had brought mine. I literally yesterday bought ultraviolet manic panic and a blue hair dye because I'm like, I want to have all the different things to mix with.
That's so
funny.
I love it. I'm going back to basics, folks. I was standing in this huge aisle of hair dyes, right? And it's so funny because there's so many boxes.
Yeah.
And they all are like slightly different, but then when you like actually hold them up next to each other, they're the freaking same thing. Like, it doesn't seem to me like there's actually that much shade variance. That's just me disturbing the hair market, disrupting. But I found this one and it's called medium brown. And I was like, classic. That's exactly what I'm going for.
Is it like an ashy brown?
I have no
more
idea.
Red tone? What are we talking about here?
Does it say that somewhere on here, or is it just for me to decide?
Just for you to decide. Sometimes they're called like ash brown. So.
Yeah, it's literally just called medium brown.
A classic.
And I think it's more like cool tone as opposed to more warm tone.
That's good. I think that's good to offset the kind of warm tone.
Well, that's what I was thinking, right? Because I was like, I do have orange-ish dyed hair still under all this. And so I feel like something a little cooler is the way to go. So I will be doing that at some point this week, and I am looking forward to it. I think, like, I actually messaged, and I am horrified if my hairstylist is watching this video, because I emailed them to set up an appointment, and I was like, can you please do my hair? And I said in the email, I have had such a fun, peachy summer. Like, I've had a great time. And I have. But I also keep having, like, slight dysmorphia in photos and when I see myself in the mirror, where I'm just like, who is that? I'm like, I want to have brown hair again.
Let's get back to normal.
I've had, like, I like the idea of kind of, like, doing this right at the end of August or the beginning of September.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Because it's, like, moving into fall time. I'm ready for, like, being a brunette again. Yeah.
Whereas I feel like I've been changed forever. I don't know if I'll ever go back to being a normal brunette ever again, but we'll see.
I think that's so cool, though. Like, we both reacted to this differently, which is, I mean, to be expected.
To be expected. I'm a fiend when it comes to dyeing my hair. Like, I love it. I just haven't done it in a while because I was like, oh, I'm working in like professional offices now. I should have normal hair. But I kind of just like took a chance on it, and so far it's been fine. So I feel like I'm at a good place. Like, I'm working at a good place now that, like, they don't care about my hair because they know I'm a good worker. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome.
I need everyone to know that what I'm rooting for is dark green hair.
We've been talking about that for about 5 years now, I want to say.
About 5 years, Raeleen and I have been talking about that. Like, I just think it would look so cool.
And that is my end goal. Like, I'll tell you right now what I'm thinking. My journey for the next few months is going to be that I'm going to dye my hair purple. I'm going to dye it like maybe blue. I might go blue. But then at a certain point too, like, all of the dye will be gone from my little bangs here. Like, you can see how much it's grown out. So I'm going to have to get it touched up or do something. So I am going to sometime in the next, 5-6 months, whatever, go back to my hairdresser and like do something else. So I'm hoping at that time it'll be time for the green, and I can get her to do the green for me. So that is so my long-term goal. I want to go through.
I like the long-term plan.
I want to go through all the colors of the rainbow, but also maybe add more, like, you know, more of the color in. We'll see. I don't know yet what I'm going to do, but
for the sense of continuity, I should explain. The reason I bought this box dye after emailing my hairstylist is because she is slammed booked, slammed shut. Pardon?
Slam chop.
She's busy. And I don't want to wait like over a month to
when you've decided you like want to go back to normal, it's like you need to do
I just want to do it now. And so I'm just going to dye it brown, and then we'll see where I am in a couple of months, and I'm sure I will go back to the hairstylist and they will save me from my mistakes. But I just want to be brown again. So that's what I'm going to go back to brunette life.
Yep.
Okay, so that's our hair update. Very important, very important. Let's do our next very important thing, which is weather. What's the situation over there like?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because the weather actually like really tied into my weekend and kind of the vibes I've been cultivating over the past few days. So last week was unexpectedly very rainy. It's funny. I feel like every week it's like, you've got it rainy and it's boiling hot over here and it keeps swapping. Yes. Finally, I got to have some rain, and it was so lovely, like just working and being able to look out the window at the rain and like wear pants instead of skirts and stuff. It was just very nice to like kind of be cozy. But I kind of started to really lean in and pretend that it's autumn already, even though this week is going to be hot. From what I can tell, like it's still summer. It's definitely still summer here, but we are like, fall is so close and it's within grasp. And so on Friday I went to the dollar store, as I often do, just to like look around, and they had Thanksgiving decorations out on display, and so that's like leaning into fall, it's getting into Halloween, but right now they're just calling it Thanksgiving, which is also far away. But anyway, so I kind of went crazy and bought some like towels for the kitchen that like have autumn leaves on them, and like I bought this little gnome, which I never thought I would buy, but he was so cute. He's this little autumnal gnome who's now just like on display in my house. And so I just kind of like went crazy, bought some like orange string lights that are now decorating the TV, and like so my whole living room is orange basically. All the lights in there are orange. And so I just like had a big movie night on Friday night and also on Saturday night, actually, because I was just loving being in that cozy atmosphere so much. I've started crocheting again. I kind of took a break from crocheting over the summer because it just doesn't feel like the right time for me to crochet. But I crocheted a little beret over the weekend because I'm getting prepared for the next Sabbath that my friends and I are going to gather for. I'm getting my outfit ready. So that's what I've been up to. But what has your weather been like this week?
Yes, it's actually been perfectly sunny. And everyone I talk to, I'm like, hasn't it just been the prettiest week? And they go, yeah, it's warm and sunny, but no humidity. And we're all just like very excited because it's been like a very dry week. So it feels like perfect summer conditions. Yeah. However, I was talking to my friend and she put it perfectly, because I was telling her, I was like, I really am like, I'm struggling. I'm struggling. I don't want to wish away summer, because I actually very distinctly remember it being winter and me wanting it to be summer so that I could go swimming and I could wear shorts and it could be fun, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, I remember wanting it to be summer. Now I don't want it to just wish away the season and want it to be the next season. And I was like, but it's starting to swell inside of me where I just like really want it to be fall, and I want the change. I think almost more than anything, the last couple of months have just felt really busy and intense. Like a lot of work, a lot of life stuff, a lot of things going on.
Yeah, it's kind of been nonstop over there.
It's been really pretty nonstop. And I think I'm just ready for the kind of like feeling of that chapter ending and a new thing starting. Totally. And like that is obviously what your rituals that you do with your friends are all about, kind of like celebrating that change and everything. But I'm like, I think I'm just ready for a change. And I'm also just like, I actually really miss my fall outfits. I realize that I'm not very good at dressing myself in the summer.
I'm the worst at that. I actually struggle with that a lot. Like, I wear the same 4 dresses every week to work during the summer. So, like, I don't have anything else to wear.
And I just don't find it as fun as I find, like, layering things and, like, browns and plaids and things like that to me are very, like, autumnal winter. I'm like, I don't know what to wear. And I was looking at I literally had this moment where I held my favorite trousers and I was like, it doesn't make sense to wear them, and I put them back down. Like, they're warm. I can't wear these. So it's just like missing things. But then, so the way that she said, she was like, I completely know what you mean. She was like, it's not that you're wishing it was over, but you just look around and you're like, we're still doing this? And I was like, yes, that's exactly what I feel like.
Why is this still happening?
Still going in this, huh? Okay, like, still, okay. Like, still doing this vibe. But, okay. All of this feels justified and fine because I have seen a couple of red leaves. Yes.
Oh my God.
That's right. There's one tree on my land that has literally, like, 5 orange leaves on one branch. And I'm like, oh my God,
it's happening.
And then on my drive the other day, I saw this, like, patch of forest that had turned red. And I
just got a little bit of a chill, not gonna lie.
No, me too. I was just like, it's here, it's coming, it's happening. Like, the seasons do roll on. It was very exciting. So I do want to, like, I kind of see this as the last week of summer, right? We have one more week of August.
Yeah, and then it's over.
And then it'll be September. And, like, it's usually warm the first few weeks of September anyway, but psychologically just knowing that it is September
being in the Burr months is when I feel happiest.
Those psychologically things have moved. We've shifted to a different plane. Yeah. So I want to kind of lean in. I want to try and go swimming a couple of times this week, and I want to try reading outside a couple of times this week, because those were 2 things I really wanted to do this summer, and I did do them, but I'm like, I'm gonna miss those in a couple
agree
of
with
months.
that. Yeah, and I've been feeling the same. Like, for the past couple of weeks have been saying I want to swim one last time, but the weather's been kind of off, or I've been too busy, and so I'm like, okay, if it is really hot this next week, I am gonna go swimming one more time. Like, I'm gonna make it happen because I also really want that. Yeah, but speaking of the weather, with the rain and everything, that kind of affected one of the things I did this weekend. So I wanted to chat about that for a second. So there was a book sale this past weekend. And it was the same sale that I went to last year in August as well. However, last year it was blazing hot. It was an outdoor book sale. This one was supposed to be the same. It was supposed to be an outdoor book sale in the summer, but it was pouring rain. And and I knew it was going to be pouring rain. And so the day before, I emailed the, like, book sale committee and was like, hey, I just wanted to confirm if the sale is still happening, what's going on. And they were like, yeah, it's still happening. There's a little building that's, like, nearby. Like, it's in the same area that we're just going to move the sale into that building instead of doing it outside. And I was like, okay, great. This is awesome. And so I showed up when the sale started. And there was already quite a big line, which there usually is, because people, like, line up so they could be the first ones into the sale or whatever.
Yeah.
But it turns out the line wasn't moving very quickly because they were only letting so many people into the building because the building was very small. Which was very disappointing.
Oh, that's too bad.
Because usually the sale is like 100 tables of books, like huge. This time it was like maybe 20, 30 tables. Like, it was very minuscule. And the saddest part was, like, I did eventually get into the sale. It took about half an hour of waiting in line to get in. But once I got in, you can see that there are just pallets and pallets of books that are all wrapped up still because they weren't able to unpack them because there was nowhere to put them. And they were stacked all the way up to the ceiling. And I could see the little labels saying, like, oh, these are, like, the arts, and these are the biographies, and these are sports. And, like, all the categories I really wanted to look at were still packed up. They basically had just unpacked, like, the fiction and kids books and war, like, history books. Like, it was really weird. I was like, okay. So anyways, I went in, I had a good time, and I did find a couple of books in there. So I'm going to show them to you now.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's transition into our book haul.
Yeah. So they are a little bit random, perhaps, but one of them, I'll start with the one that I'm, like, so excited and like shocked that I found. And that is Monkey Grip by Helen Garner. Except
Great cover.
It's an ARC. It's a weird copy because it's an ARC. But this is a book that you hauled a couple of months ago, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I have been lusting after it ever since you hauled it. And so this has been on my wish list. And it's like available to buy online now, like in Canada. But it's like $40. Like it's an expensive hardcover. It's for context, this book came out in 1977, but they've just reissued it with this nice new cover. It's being released in Canada. I don't know if it's the first time it's been released in Canada, but it's this new 2024 edition either way. So it's like a brand new book, very hard to find. And so I went into the sale, like not expecting to find this obviously, but this was one that's like top of mind for me right now. And I just saw the spine and was like, wait, are you telling me that that's the book? And boom, there it is. So
lo and behold,
it is an ARC, which is a little unfortunate and maybe controversial, but whatever. It's got nice flop, and it only cost me $3 instead of $40. So I felt like it was a good find, and I'm very excited about that. But the second book I got is kind of random, but is one that I've been wanting to get for a while, and that is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. So this one, you watched the show for this, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did.
So you probably know more about it than I do, but
I want to rewatch it actually. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, you know what? I would rewatch that. Yeah. And I was a little surprised because I went in judgmental. Guys, I went in judgmental. I'm willing to admit that. There's a lot of reasons, but the main one was I just have found Brie Larson like not very good in a lot of things that I've seen her in.
I've heard that from a lot of people.
But then I watched this and I was like, I kind of love it.
Yeah, like I don't know. It sounds up my alley. Like I still don't really understand what it's about, but there's some like the main character has a cooking show, but is she actually cooking or is she cooking with chemistry? Like I'm confused about what the book is actually about.
Yeah, so basically it's about a woman who is a chemist, but it's in the like 50s and 60s when she isn't allowed many opportunities to actually be a chemist and like be respected in her field. And like through an interesting little series of events, she ends up being hired to run a cooking show, but she takes it as her opportunity to like show chemistry to women. See. And so she's like, you can get the perfect chicken bake by boiling this chemical in the stove at the same time because of the, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, but there's a lot more that goes down in the book because in the trailer, it kind of pitches it similar to the book where you think it's about her being a TV chef.
Right. That's part of the catalyst for everything else.
Well, that's actually like the second half of the story. Like so much happens in beforehand that, I actually really enjoyed it. So I bet you it's a good book. I mean, it's obviously sold so millions of copies.
I've heard nothing but good things. It's one of those like really popular books that I have just been like kind of curious about in the back of my mind. And I kept telling myself like, if I see it somewhere cheap, I'll definitely pick it up. And it's funny too, because like the cover is so off-putting. Like it makes it look like a cheesy rom-com. And so like I kind of like wrote it off in my mind for a long time until I like heard what it was actually about, and I was like, oh wait, that sounds awesome. So I'm really excited to have found it, and it was like covered in Costco stickers, so I had to like do some work to clean it up, but I feel good about it now. So I just got those 2 books, so I feel really good about that little haul. Like I said, it was a really small sale, so I was kind of worried I wasn't gonna find anything, or I was gonna have to like stretch to buy something that was kind of like maybe not something I really wanted. But I came out with 2 books that I really wanted, so I feel pretty good about that.
It still worked out, even if it wasn't exactly what you wanted. Exactly. Well, there you go. Life rolls on. Life rolls on. Speaking of rolling on, I'd like to tell you about a mini truck event I did. So, as you will recall, I was supposed to do a miniature truck event a couple of weeks ago, and then the mini truck broke down on the way to the event, and it was very sad. And I took the truck to the mechanic, and thank God it was not a big deal. A belt broke. That's it. The belt broke on the water pump, and he just replaced it. And now it's working great again. So life is good again, thank God. And so I ended up rescheduling with that farmer's market, and I was like, the truck is fixed. I'd love to come back. And because they run every Sunday, so they were like, And the other good thing is that, like, typically it might be difficult for me to get a slot because they only have a certain amount of tables inside that they can seat vendors at. Yeah. But I'm parked outside, so it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter at all.
And so it just ended up, it was really, really, really cute. It was such a lovely little farmer's market in such a pretty part of Nova Scotia. And I sold like 25 books, which I genuinely thought I'd sell 5 because it was such a small market and such a small part of the province. I was like, I don't know how many. And I also felt like people were going to go there for vegetables, not for books. Of course,
yeah.
You know? But like people loved the truck. And so everyone was really joyful and chatting and looking for different things, and sold a couple of hats, sold a mug, which was exciting.
That.
We did have a little disaster. Actually, I had 2 disasters. One, I left one of the boxes of books at home. I was like, I didn't have any of CJ's books because CJ has a shelf on the truck that is books my brother thinks you should read. And I love that shelf because it's super different to like my normal books on there and stuff. Yeah. And I was missing some of the women losing their mind books. And I was like, where? And I was like, we're definitely missing a box. And then I walk into my office after, like, when we got back home, and there's just a box sitting there. I was like, how did we both miss this box?
How does this happen?
It was crazy. But then the other thing that happened was I was parked on a hill. It was like the market, the hall, the building is kind of like down a little bit, and so the entrance is kind of a little rolly hill thing, and like it's fine, I can park and put the parking brake on, and the truck didn't roll, but everything was on a slant, and so every time I was trying to stack the books, it all fall, and like everything would happen, and inevitably I knocked over my coffee cup, and coffee rolled down the table and damaged like 6 books. That's a disaster. Huge disaster. It was a disaster. That makes me sad. I know, it was terrible. So I think I'm gonna offer those books for like $5 each or something, and be like coffee disaster books label. Just lean in and make it fun, because there were 84 Charing Cross Road, a copy of Albatross. It was a disaster, but it was also really funny, and there was a couple people around, and they all helped to grab books really quickly, and it was like a community moment, you know, it pulled the community together to protect the book. So it was a really fun event, and I'm really grateful to West Dublin Hall Market for hosting me and my little truck, and I'm supposed to be doing an event next weekend, but I will keep you guys updated on that one, because currently it seems that the truck does not fit where it's supposed to go, so I don't know what's going.
Which is so funny considering how little
I'm gonna have to start scheming. All right, let's talk about the books we've read. All right, I have 2 books I want to review. I think you have 1 book, so maybe we'll go back and forth. I'll start us off. Should I do the little book or the big book?
Ooh, big book.
Okay. I read The Con Artists by Luke Healy. Luke Healy is a cartoonist, comedian, and TV writer from Dublin, Ireland. He is the author of 4 graphic novels and dozens of short stories. The Con Artists was published in 2022 by Drawn and Quarterly. So this is one of the graphic novels that I purchased in Toronto when I was just there. So it feels good to be blazing through these and just checking them off, you know?
Yeah.
So basically one night I was like, what do I want to read? And I saw this sitting on my desk. I was like, actually, yeah, I had high hopes for this one. I felt like this was going to be my favorite of the bunch. It was good. Okay. But I didn't love it.
Damn it.
How do I put this? Okay. There's a lot of things working here. A lot of things that I did like. I really liked the clarity and precision of the drawings.
Ooh, okay.
Like everything just felt really like he used a ruler.
Ooh,
like
nice.
It just felt really clean and really, really just precise, as I said. And I also enjoyed the dialogue and conversations. Like I felt like he's a great writer and the stuff that he was saying was interesting. So that was great. I didn't really care about the plot. I felt like I couldn't tell. Okay. And this is not a graphic novel problem. This is just a book problem. I've had this a couple times this year, and it makes me want to shake stuff. I'm just like, what was the point?
Yeah.
Like, what are you trying to say to me? What did you want me to walk away from this feeling or thinking? What did you want to probe? what was the message?
Yeah.
And it's unfair. It's a little unfair to compare all books to like great classics.
Yeah.
Because they are truly the like gems of the decades. Like only a few survive, and maybe everyone's. And that's the other thing. Not everyone is striving to do a classic. Not everyone is striving to be like, I'm trying to write the next 1984. No, you also, I'm glad that there are people just writing stuff for entertainment or like a very personal story they feel that they want to share with the world. Like there's lots of reasons to write. But that being said, the books that I enjoy the most, the books that really like touch me and I feel are really valuable and that I'm so glad I read and that I want to recommend to others, those are usually the books that have some larger message. And it doesn't have to be like a massive message like 1984. Like that's like, you know, like totalitarianism is gonna get y'all.
Yeah, that's huge.
Like it doesn't have to be like that. It can be like another one that just popped in my head was Motherhood by Sheila Heti. That book will stick with me forever because it's a very stripped back, very basic question. Should I have a child? But it's a really powerful question. And she's doing such an interesting job exploring it. And at the end of it, I'm thinking, wow, should I have a child? I don't know, but we've really we've done a thought experiment here. We've like looked at this from different perspectives. I'm like very fascinated. I just don't know what the point of this book was. And that left me kind of frustrated because I was like, it shouldn't be that hard for me to know what I was supposed to feel at the end or what the point was. It felt, So
was it just pure entertainment? Like, did it feel like it was at least entertaining or?
It wasn't very funny. It wasn't very funny, which, like, there was some good jokes because, like, the main character is a comedian, and so he's, like, trying to be funny and stuff, but it also, he kind of wasn't funny, and that was kind of part of the book, that it's like, you're, like, a failed comedian, sort of, and so you're like, wow, this isn't even funny. But like intentionally, it's like intentionally not funny.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm being a little unfair to this particular book because basically I feel like it's just been a lot of books this year that I've read that have amounted to this moment of crisis for me. So I'm not trying to single out the con artists, which if I bet you if I'd read it earlier in the year, I would have been like, yeah, it was nice. It was cool. Yeah. And like, again, if you like, if you are a comedian or if you like stories about comedians, I haven't read many stories about comedians, so I felt like this was a cool interpretation. And then also, it's like a story about two friends who are both male, and that's like not something I read very often, so that was interesting. But like to go easily through the plot, it's about a man who at the very beginning is sitting at a cafe with his best friend, and they're like, let's try and be like really great comedians this year, and like really push hard on that goal. Yeah. And while he's having that conversation, he gets a phone call from an old friend of his who was just hit by a bus and is like been broken. Yeah. Like his arm is broken and he's in like a lot of pain. And he's like, can you come to the hospital and just help me a little bit? Like, I'm lonely. So he goes and he realizes he should move in with this friend for a couple of weeks to help him out because he doesn't have anyone else in his life that can really support him. And it's about that. And it's about, like, living with that friend for a while and seeing how toxic the friendship is. And he really doesn't trust this person. And there's, like, clearly some sketchy stuff going on. And the main character is, like, very anxious and starts going to therapy. And so there's some interesting things going on there. But I didn't feel that it amounted to something that I can really pinpoint and be like, this really made me think about X, Y, or Z. Yeah. So there you go. Damn.
Damn indeed.
Damn. Yeah, I've got a comment that I pulled from the YouTube comments during the mailroom that will kind of relate to this graphic novel thing later on in the episode.
I have one too. So people are trying to help you out with the graphic novels.
They really are, which I appreciate. I do appreciate. Which book do you want to review?
Well, I was reading this book last week, so it may not surprise you to hear that I finished reading The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. Liz Moore is an American author born in 1983. After a brief time as a musician in New York City, which inspired her first novel, The Words of Every Song, Moore shifted her focus to writing. Her fourth novel, Long Bright River, was a Good Morning America book club selection in 2020 and was one of Barack Obama's favorite books of the year. The God of the Woods is her fifth novel. I kind of blasted through this book.
Yeah,
if I'm being honest, I loved the heck out of this. So it just feels like such a victory because this book wasn't even really on my radar like a month ago. I never planned to buy it because, like I think I mentioned previously, I DNF'd. The only other book of hers I've attempted to read, The Unseen World, I was like, nah, I don't like this at all. It was not for me. And so I kind of was like, I'm never going to read one of her books again. It was kind of where I was at. But I'm so glad that I took a chance on this because it was awesome. So let me tell you what it's about a little bit from the top here. So basically, this follows a very rich family who has, basically you've got like a, you know, the mom and dad or whatever. They, in the 1960s, they had, or I guess it wouldn't have been in the 60s. In the 50s, they had a son, and they kind of were like, all right, we're happy with this. We just want this one son, because the father is kind of like, oh, I just need a son to carry on the family legacy, blah, blah, blah. And so this kid is like their pride and joy, and he goes missing when he's 8.
Okay.
And so that kind of happens. That's one timeline of the book. But then the book takes place like 13 years later when they've had a daughter who is essentially the replacement for this son who's gone missing. They never found him. They never found out what happened to him. So it's kind of just this sad thing that just like has lingered in their family. And so in 1975, which is when the main storyline is, Barbara, the daughter, goes to camp and then also goes missing. And so it's so just scary. This like, oh my God, not this again. Like, what is going on? And so like obviously the police get involved. And so the whole book is kind of like bouncing around between like 5 or 6 different timelines, which sounds really confusing and scary, but I promise it's not. It's really, really easy to follow. And there's also like maybe 5 or 6 characters. So you've got a bunch of different characters, a bunch of different timelines, and they're just woven together in such a perfect way that makes for such an engaging read. And it makes you question things at like every turn because like you think you know what's going on, but then you don't. And every now and then there'll be like, there's this one character who's kind of like an escaped convict from prison, like scary person. And you don't really see much of him though. Like you only get like 3 chapters from him. So you don't really know what's going on or if he's involved. And like, it's all very, very interesting. And one of the characters is an investigator, like a young woman who's just gotten started, like on the force kind of thing. And so she's really fun to follow. I really liked her perspective. But then you've also got a girl who is a camper who was best friends with this girl who went missing. Right. And then you've got like the mom character from, you know, in the past that kind of shows you like where she got started, but then also the timeline where the son goes missing. So like there's just a lot of different really interesting perspectives, and I had such a good time reading it. And I actually...
That's so epic.
Yeah, like in order to like really immerse myself in it, because I really wanted to just like focus on this book and like not get distracted, I was like, okay, I'm gonna like listen to music. So I was like listening to 70s music while I was reading, and I like lit incense that smelled like the forest and stuff like that. Like it was just like a really fun way to read this book. So I do highly recommend that. But yeah, the other thing to mention is it is quite long. Like it's almost 500 pages, but I blew through it. Like
you really did.
I did not find it to be slow in any way. Like it is literary, like a literary mystery thriller, so it's not like as maybe like easy to fly through as, you know, some other thrillers might be, but I still found it to be really, really engaging. Like I have no complaints about the pacing at all. I thought it was perfect. The characters were really interesting, and yeah, overall just a really, really fun time. So if it sounds appealing to anyone, like I highly, highly recommend it.
That's so
definitely
awesome.
Going to be up there as one of my favorites of the year. Oh, and I should also mention the ugly pink paint on the cover is of course significant, as I knew it probably would be. Okay. But I still don't like the cover.
I was about to say I have 3 questions, and that was the first one. Okay, so the pink paint drop is significant.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so do you now like the cover a bit more?
No, I still think that it could have been done in a different way, because it also like the context in which the pink paint is significant doesn't make sense with the way the cover is designed.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's kind of weird. Yeah.
My second question is, do your nails match the cover perfectly?
Oh, my nails are gold. So that, it does kind of vibe with the cover though.
From the Google Meet camera, it looks like they were green.
Oh,
so I got confused.
I do have a nail color that's similar to that cover, so you're not completely wrong.
My third question is, do you agree with Max of Well Done Books that this is the book of the summer?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I wish that like I had known about it earlier, and I do think it only came out like a month ago. So if it had come out at the beginning of June, that might have been better for it to be like the book of the summer. I feel like it kind of came at a weird time, but I mean, I think it works as like an end of summer, beginning of fall book too, though, because it is kind of spooky, and like the main storyline does take place at the end of August.
Right.
So I mean, now is the perfect time to read it, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
That's cool.
Go out and get it and read it right now.
Okay, well, the second book that I'm going to review is Closer Baby Closer by Savannah Brown. Savannah Brown grew up in Northeast Ohio, moved to London, and now lives in Edinburgh with her cat, Bug. She is the author of 3 poetry collections and 2 novels. She runs Doomsday Press and a yearly poetry challenge called Escape Roll. Closer Baby Closer was published in 2023. I'm continuing my streak of reading books by friends.
Oh, yeah.
Which is working out very well for me, because it turns out my friends are all geniuses.
Who would have thought?
This was a really, really fun collection. I enjoyed reading it. I think that, like, it's so difficult when you're reading, like, someone's 3rd poetry collection and you've read, like, the other ones. It's hard to not compare them, right? Because you're like, when I read Mary Oliver, I'm like, oh, I didn't like it as much as Blue Horses, because by that time you now have a favorite that you're like comparing the others to. So I think that my favorite is still Sweet Dark by Savannah Brown, but I kind of want to reread Sweet Dark now, because I'm like, am I remembering that right? I don't know.
Yeah.
This one has a very specific vibe of like young woman in London. Okay. In a very, like, social time in her life. What does it say on the back here? Yeah, I mean, it even says that. Charts her own cartographies through London and the World Wide Web. I think she's just such a great writer. And here, I've been reading a poem from every collection I read this year. So I'm going to read this last one. Keep the good times rolling, I say. This one's called Top Comment. I think it was my favorite one. I have never experienced... What if I read it right this time? Okay, I'll give that a shot. Top comment. I have never had an original experience in my life. I'd send this to my boyfriend, but you're too pretty. This world is full of the left and the leaving. A living machine only tries to answer hard questions correctly. Our fear harmonized like a grade school choir trying and full of tomorrows. Once on vacation, I watched more than 1,000 people gather round a pier to take the exact same picture of the sun. I'm sure this breeze is related to the force that invented consciousness. Would you ever want to find out how many miracles you have left, or do you want it to be a surprise? Everyone wants to know if it ever snowed in the town you grew up in. The thought of getting a drink with my mom, when she was the age I am now, makes me cry. In my childhood home, small pieces of skin float in the air and catch light rays like human confetti. My friends, I'll use my intelligence to love you better. Young geniuses, accidental astronauts, I'll get to the place where you are.
Damn.
That's such a nice poem.
That was awesome.
I like that. Yeah, it's awesome.
I like that one too.
That's the final poem of the collection, and I feel like it's such a like messy collection on purpose. Like, it's got this like grittiness of like going out at night and meeting people and being out in London. It's got this like grittiness, but then it ends there and you're just like, ah.
Yeah, that feels kind of like a breath of fresh air almost.
It really does, right? I love that poem. So I'm really glad that I read this, because I've had it since it came out, and I mean, it only came out last year, so it's not been sitting there for too long. But I really like Savannah's poetry, and so I'm glad that I read it, and that continues my streak of reading books by friends.
And reading poetry. You've been reading a lot of poetry lately, which is exciting.
It's true.
I know you wanted to do that. I can't remember if it was actually a goal of yours, but like...
It was not an official goal, but I feel like it's always like a sub-goal.
Yeah.
To just try and like hit up these genres. I guess it's not a genre, it's a format. Hit up these formats that I care about and try and actually incorporate them, which is a lot easier when you read a lot more. 'Cause
that's true.
If I only read 20 books in a year, if I could read 2 poetry collections, that's already making up a considerable part of the reading of that year, right?
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, okay. Those were what we read. Let's transition and talk about what we're reading. How many do you have, Raeleen?
2. I'm going crazy.
You are going crazy. I don't even know who you are anymore. Okay, how about you start us off then, and we'll go back and forth.
Okay, so the first book I'm reading, I'm actually listening to on audio, and it's a book that I've had on my shelf for a while and have been wanting to specifically listen to on audio, but have not been able to. But now, since Spotify has audiobooks, I discovered that this book is on there. And that book is The Stranger Beside Me by Anne Rule. So this is a true crime book. This is like a classic true crime book about Ted Bundy. So Anne Rule, if people don't know, she has written lots of true crime books. Like she was a crime journalist and then transitioned into writing books. And in the 70s, she worked with Ted Bundy, which is why the title is The Stranger Beside Me. So she actually knew him. And so this book is so interesting because of how personal it is. Like it's a true crime book, but it's also a little bit of memoir because she was there. She was like involved, not involved necessarily, but like she knew things because she worked closely with the police, and she was like, she was right along there with it. So it's so interesting, and it's so good on audio. Like I can't remember the name of the narrator, but she does a really great job, and it just feels like I'm listening to a podcast, but like a really really well written podcast. And that's why I really like experiencing true crime books through audiobooks, because it just feels like a good way to absorb them. So I'm really loving this so far. Like it's, it's everything you would expect a true crime book to be. It's very dark and full of twisted stuff, obviously, but it is so well written. And
interesting.
I'm just loving it. And it feels like the perfect time to be reading it because, like we were talking about, it's like turning into fall. And I feel like now is just the time for spooky stuff. And so I'm jumping on it right away. But yeah, it has been on my TBR for a while too. So it feels good to finally knock like a big mashed potato off my TBR. The next book I'm reading, I just started this yesterday, so I'm still pretty early on. But it is Raise High the Roof Beam Carpenters and Seymour an Introduction by J.D. Salinger. Which
awesome.
Is so random, kind of, but this is a book that I have also been meaning to read for a while. It's on my 24 in 24 TBR. It's a classic. It's been a little while since I've read a proper classic, and so I thought, you know what, now is the time. After reading like a brand new like release, I wanted to read something that was kind of like different. And so I'm still in the first, like it's like 2 novellas put together into one book basically. So I'm still in the middle of the first one. But it's interesting. And the main character is one of the people in the same family as Franny and Zoe. So it's like related to Franny and Zoe.
That's neat.
And Seymour, who is also mentioned, he's the oldest brother of this family. So it's like a family of 7 siblings. And so you kind of like, depending which books you're reading, you kind of get to see different bits of the family, which is interesting. Like they're not, I don't know if this would be considered a sequel or a prequel to Franny and Zoe. Like I don't really know the timeline necessarily, but so you can kind of read them independently from each other. But it is just interesting kind of being like, oh yeah, I remember these guys. Like it's kind of fun to like, be thrown into the family again. And the first like Raise High the Roof Beam Carpenters so far is just kind of like, it's reminding me of Catcher in the Rye quite a lot, because it's kind of like the main character is just like along for the ride. Like he's just like going to a wedding and then the wedding falls apart and he's kind of like just there like, whoa, what's going on? Like he's just kind of like cruising around New York with strangers. Like it's very interesting, and I'm loving it. Like it's very good so far, and I'm happy to be reading it. So yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the 2 things that I'm reading are pretty exciting, I think. The first one is Slow Dance by Rainbow Rowell.
Cool.
I am on page 145. So I've made a good chunk.
Okay,
I've
so
made a good way.
You can tell us what it's about.
Yes, I am, like, I think I'm a little over a third of the way in. Am I liking this? Not really.
Damn it. Oh no, that's not a question you want to be asking yourself a third of the way in.
It's really not.
That should be the best part.
Yeah.
Like that's supposed to really draw you in. Okay, what's going on? Tell me everything. I'm listening.
Okay, I will tell you everything, Raeleen. I will. So here's the situation. We've got 2 characters, Shiloh and Carrie. Shiloh and Carrie were best friends in high school. They had like a will they won't they kind of a situation. Okay. They couldn't quite get it together enough to communicate clearly to each other that they wanted to date, which is actually understandable.
Yeah.
Because when you're in high school, everything's embarrassing and everything is nerve-wracking. And I remember, I don't know if I want to tell this story publicly here, but I remember my first quote-unquote boyfriend I dated for, I think it was 4 days, and I was so scared to see him. I would avoid him in the hallway, and then eventually at the end, this is so cringe, at the end I ran into him, and he was like, I was like, hey, he was like, I think we should like just call it off. I was like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. And I was devastated because I did want to date him, but I just couldn't. Like, I did not have the wherewithal.
I just want to like back you up here to let you know I've had approximately 3 experiences almost exactly like that, where it was like, yes! I was like IMing someone but would never talk to them in real life, and like if I saw them in the hallway it was like like we would act like we didn't know each other, but we were like BFFs over, like, it was so weird. It was such a weird time.
Epic. But this is what I'm talking about. When you're a teenager, it's fine. You are all just figuring out emotions. It's like all so embarrassing. I totally get it.
Embarrassing.
So that is like their origin kind of thing.
Okay.
They were like best friends. They were always hanging out in high school. Fast forward, the book starts when I think the main character is 33. And she's living in her mom's house. She has 2 children, and she's just in the last few months gotten a divorce.
Okay.
And so she keeps kind of reiterating that her life is just absolutely not what she thought it would be. She always thought she would be like really successful in a great marriage with like everything figured out in her own house, and instead she feels very much like she's gone backwards in time. She grew up low income, and her mom is low income, and so is she, and so that's why they've kind of like moved back in together, because now that she's a single mom, she kind of can't afford her own place. And we're starting the novel off at the night of a big wedding, where it's basically a high school reunion, because there was a 3rd friend in this best friend group at high school, and he is now getting remarried. And so she's like, okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna see all my old friends, and I bet you Carrie's gonna be there. Oh my god. Yikes. I'm so nervous. And I'm reading this book, right, and this is just the opening chapters, and I'm a little like, I don't know about all this. Because I was excited about the concept of like a couple that was like kind of a couple in high school and then didn't talk for, like, in this case I guess it's like a decade, and then I think they said we haven't spoken in 14 years, and then they get back together. I like that idea, because that's what happened to me.
Yeah, totally.
Right? We dated in high school, and then we literally didn't talk at all for a decade, and then we became friends again, and then we started dating again. So I'm like, this is kind of a cool idea. But it's very different in that, like, in me and Connor's case, for example, we both left that hometown and went and did things and, like, lived a whole life, and then met at a very different phase in life. Here, there's, like, a sadness very baked into the fabric of this book, because she's stuck in this town she doesn't want to be in. None of her friends, like, she's still talking to these friends from high school, but she doesn't like them, and they clearly don't like her. And so her going back to this high school relationship doesn't feel like people moving forward. It feels like people moving backward.
Okay, I hear you.
So I don't like it. I don't like it from the beginning. I'm like, I don't like the vibes. I don't like the concept. I'm stressed.
Yeah, like, you're not almost rooting for it. You want them to get out of this life.
Yes, I want everyone to move on. Like, you have to grow. They haven't grown. And, like, whereas I feel like me and Connor, like, both left that town and grew up. And we could have done that, like, in the town. I'm not saying you have to leave your hometown. But, like, the point is we both grew, and when we met again, I think the reason that we, like, really became good friends again the second time is because we had really grown into interesting adults. Whereas in this book, I feel like they're, like, very similar to their teenage selves and haven't really figured out a lot of these pretty core basic ideas of communication. Anyways, they almost sleep together. And I'm like reading this thing, and it's so funny to me because I'm like, wow, I haven't read like a sex scene in so long. Because like the literary fiction and stuff that I read, it doesn't really come up very often. And when it does, it kind of is packaged very differently.
But yeah, it's not like the point of a scene necessarily.
Yeah. And so I'm reading it, and I'm like, this is fascinating. And I'm like reading it, and then they mess it up. They like don't end up having sex because they're both so dumb. They're both so dumb. And they can't talk. And this is like my least favorite thing in a book.
It's the worst.
Is when a simple, clear conversation would solve the problems. And I'm feeling this so much in this novel, where I'm just like, if you guys would just act like you're 33 and communicate clearly what's going on.
Oh man,
none of this ridiculous like, oh, you said this and you said this, that was 10 years ago, you think it doesn't hurt? And I'm like, guys, no,
let's move on.
Yeah, it feels like that. And I'm just like, I think I find it really stressful when people really live in the past. And it feels like so much of this book is throwback to stuff that happened when they were 17. And I'm like, that was a long time ago. You have 2 kids now.
Oh my God.
Like, I don't know.
You should have grown up a little bit.
Yes.
That seems like poor character development.
Yeah. So I'm not loving it. All of that to say, that makes it sound like I'm hating it. I'm not hating it either. It's very readable. It's very easy to read. I read those. I read those 145 pages in 2 sittings. Like, it's
Rainbow
Rowell.
What are we talking about?
It's Rainbow Rowell. You sit down and you blaze through it. It's so easy to read, and it's fun, and it's quick, and it's like a lot of dialogue as well. So it's very easy to push through. So I was talking about this to Connor last night. I am going to finish it. I don't want to DNF it for a few reasons. One is just that, like, it's a Rainbow Rowell, and I was really excited about it.
Yeah.
2, because it's like a brand new release from a big author, and I want to be able to like talk about this book and have had it finished. But it's not going well.
Maybe it'll turn around.
Maybe.
Probably not, but we'll see.
Probably not. Okay, the other thing that I'm reading, I hasten to say that I'm reading it. I'm only on page 2.
I love that. I love when you do that.
I have started it. And it is the Tove Jansson biography. I think it might be Tove Jansson. I need to look that up.
It might even be Jansson. I'm not sure.
Tove Jansson does sound a lot more Finnish than whatever the hell I was saying before.
Maybe by next week we'll know for sure.
That's so interesting. Loving it. I know what you're thinking. You're only 2 pages in. Yep.
Of course you're going to love it, though. How could you not? I think you are a biography girl deep down. Like, I think that could be the thing that, like, 20 years from now, you're still like, yes, I love my biographies. Like, I can really see that for you.
I agree. And I can imagine, I can already picture the bookshelf, you know, like the shelf on the thing that's like all these big biographies. I actually recorded a cute video, if I do say so myself, a cute video for our patrons where I brought my stack of 7 biographies that I own, and then I read out loud the first paragraph of each one to like pick which one I was going to read.
Oh, nice.
The 2 finalists were this one and the Lucy Maud Montgomery one.
Ooh.
But I was just, I don't know why I was feeling this one. I was just like hyped on this one a little, I edged it out slightly more. Also, it's shorter. It's just a little bit shorter. And so I was like, I'll do that one.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, so I'm literally only on page 2 or 3 or whatever, and so I have very little to say other than it's got a lot of images throughout, which is really cool because most of the biographies I own have like 1 or 2 sections in the middle that are shiny paper, and it's got a lot of images there. But this has like images on the normal pages.
I prefer that. I like it when they're mixed in.
Yeah, it's really nice. So I have a really good feeling about this one. I think it's going to be awesome.
And I just want to say I'm excited and proud of you for reading another one already. It makes me happy.
Thanks, Raeleen.
You're doing great.
I appreciate that.
I think you are going to do better at your reading goals this year than I am. I think mine are going to fall apart.
I don't know. I don't know. I was looking at my goals. Let me look at this. Why not? Do a little check in here. Looking at my goals. One of them completely achieved. Build and operate a bookmobile.
Done.
Check mark. Read 3 biographies. I've read one. I'm in the second one. And I already know which one the third one's going to be. It's going to be that Jane Austen one that's going to come out on audiobook in September. Yeah. So I'm feeling very good about accomplishing that one. But then really my other 2 goals, what the hell was I thinking? That's what I have to say. The one of them is read 100 books. So let's do a check in here. I am at, wait for it. I am at 42 books read.
Okay.
Which is like, in some ways, astonishing.
Yeah, definitely. It's something to be proud of.
It's so many more books than I usually read by this point in the year. On the other hand, is it what I need to be at to get to 100?
No, senor.
No. No, it is not. So there's a little fear there. And then the other goal is finish visiting every bookshop in Nova Scotia. And I have visited a couple more that I, for some reason, haven't talked about on the podcast. Basically, I was like, I want to like do a couple and then talk about them all at once. So I have been working on that goal, and I have plans to see more, but I'm like, all of them?
I mean, I think that's a goal that's fun to have, but I don't ever expect you to actually do that one. And it's not a reading goal, so I don't think it counts necessarily as like against you. Yeah. You know? It would be nice to do, but I don't think you should feel too bad, because that like involves a lot of travel. It's not as easy as just sitting down and reading a book.
It is a pretty expensive goal.
It's a lot of gas.
It's a lot of gasoline. Well, there you have it. That's what I'm currently reading. That's where my goals are at, as a fun little aside. How about we take a little visit to the mailroom? I only pulled 2 comments this week, so let me start with those, Raeleen. The first one is from Alexis, who says, I just feel like you should know that I was in the shower today wondering how my glasses will look with my upcoming haircut. Oh. And I was like, who was I just talking about glasses with? It was in the car. And then I realized my brain was thinking of the podcast from a few weeks ago where you talked about contacts and glasses. Books Unbound is such a comfort listen that I remember you just as some friends in my car. Aww. Thank you for creating such a cozy listening space. Isn't that the sweetest thing you ever heard?
So sweet.
I love that so much. I really love that so much. Okay, and then the other comment is from Raccoon Snacks. Great username.
Yeah.
Who says, hey, Ariel, if you want a good graphic novel with beautiful art and a beautiful story, I really recommend Tilly Walden's work On a Sunbeam, especially, and her graphic memoir, Spinning. On a Sunbeam is about a small crew of women and non-binary people who travel space in a spaceship fixing old broken temples, and it also delves into the main character's past, looking at her first love and relationship. Spinning is about the author's childhood spent as a figure skater and how she fell out of love with the sport. Both are absolutely stunning in every way. And then Larissa responded to that and said, we, including Raeleen, have been trying to make Ariel read On a Sunbeam for so long.
It's true. I've been trying. I really think you need to just give it another try. Go back to the beginning and just read the whole thing. Like, it's really...
I made it like a third of the way in, and I was kind of bored.
Yeah. That's really sad to hear, but I do think if you gave it another try with a fresh set of eyes,
I will.
Because like it is kind of like plot wise, there's not like a lot going on, but it's like it's really about the people, and like the art is crazy. It's like the color palette in that book is probably the best I've ever seen. Like I love it.
Whoa.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks.
All right, what did you find?
Okay, well, one comment I pulled was from another shout out to our Patreon videos that we make. I made like a summer book recommendations video a little while ago, and but a lot of the books I recommended were like kind of spooky books, because that just like it just happened that way. It just felt right to me. And so Adrian says, Raeleen says the best time to read a spooky book is all the time. Thanks for the recs. I was like, yeah. You're not wrong. Like, I actually couldn't help myself from recommending Stephen King books in that video. I was like,
that's awesome.
I need to. Like, for me, this is a beach read. Okay, and a couple more comments I got. This one is from Tiana, who says, Ariel, I think you already own your next favorite graphic novel. It's Persepolis. I read it last year, and I'm pretty sure you will love it too. And I mean, yeah, that's like a classic. So I feel like
that's one of my most mashed potato.
Yeah, it's pretty much impossible that you wouldn't love that. It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
I agree.
You've got to read it. You've got to. Okay, and then a couple more comments I got here. One is from Vera, who says, I can't believe Ariel has finally finished a biography. So proud of you. Yes, we're all very proud of you. And then the last one is from Micheline, who says, I bought penny loafers recently too. Weegens? Yes. So comfy. I don't know if that's the brand, but... Weegens. But
how do you spell that?
Weejuns.
Weegens.
J-U.
Oh, yeah. It says footwear company.
Okay, cool.
Oh.
So you guys have a connection
I'm looking
now.
at the penny loafers. They're very cute.
You guys are making me want to get some kind of new shoe. I really want to get some like chunky loafers, like the ones that have a really thick sole. Like I feel like that can be my vibe.
I found a pair of those at a thrift shop a couple weeks ago for $20, and they were my size, and they were still in the box.
What?
I bought them.
Oh my gosh.
So now I bought those shoes, and then I was like a couple weeks later in Kingston visiting Connor's family. This was just now.
Yeah.
And I saw these penny loafers, and I was like, I can't help it. And I bought those too.
I mean, why not?
So now I have like short ones and tall ones.
That is so cool.
It's another reason I'm sure I'm like really ready for fall, because I'm like, you can't really wear loafers in the summer.
Yeah, that's actually a good goal. I should get those shoes for the fall season.
Oh no.
I can't help myself.
Well, here we are. We've made it to the end of this episode. I feel that it was a nice, jolly one. So good job, everyone. We hope that you guys are doing well. If you want to support the pod, there are a couple of really, easy, simple ways you can do that. First, you could share it with anyone if you want to spread the word. You can check out our merch shop. We've got cute hats on there. We've got some cute stuff, and we've got new cute stuff coming soon that we're very excited about. Or you could also support us on Patreon, which is the biggest impact you could make on the pod, because the monthly support gives us stability so that we can do cool things and keep the machine running. Speaking of the Patreon, we're going to go to the Patreon now and record our weekly mini podcast. This week we're doing
the question vase.
The question vase, where we answer your Q&As. And so our patrons submit random questions and we answer the hell out of them, let me tell you. So we're going to go do that. Thank you so much to everyone for watching this video, or I mean listening to this podcast, and we will talk to you next week. Goodbye.